What the hell going on up in here?
What if I told you I could predict whether or not your fantasy action story would do well or not based off of one thing, the power system? Because when this power system is explained properly, the story is set up for success. And if not, well, you can guess the rest. It seems like a silly thing to prioritize. Like you might be thinking, oh, like the power system's just there for the action to look cooler. And you would be absolutely wrong. A good power system should directly tie in with the characters' personalities and the overall story's theme. When you write a power system that's creative and works towards the narrative's favor, you get the difference between an average story and a masterpiece like Hunter x Hunter. Everybody knows that Nen is the most detailed power system out there. There's an entire chart detailing the relationship between the 6 different Nen types. And the Nen type you naturally have an affinity for is based off of the user's personality. This is the first part of what makes Nen such a brilliant power system, because it's used in a way that strengthens our understanding of each character. For example, the main character Gon is like a hard-headed, straightforward kind of person. So his Nen affinity is enhancement because that matches his fighting style. He just jumps straight into battle and hits really hard. One of my favorite characters is Illumi, who's a manipulator Nen type. And this matches his personality well because he is a controlling older brother who uses these mind-controlling pins to force his younger brother Killua to kill people because they're part of like this assassin family, so he thinks he's doing him a favor. The power system is set up in a way where Togashi can easily integrate a character's personality with their power wherever we are in the story. And it makes it so that every character has at least a little bit of depth to them based off of their power. And it goes even further because in the world of Hunter x Hunter, you can choose your own power. Nen is so flexible that anyone can train their own Nen affinity to create their own power if they work hard enough. This only further expands on each character. Killua is a transmuter, meaning he can turn his aura into a different type of substance. He chooses to turn his aura into electricity, and that's super cool, but it's so much deeper than that. As I said before, Killua comes from a family of assassins, and they would literally torture him to basically train him, and he became immune to things like electricity and poison. Killua turning his Nen into lightning is him symbolically saying that he's breaking free from his family, because he essentially took a pain from his past and made it something of his own, showing that he is independent now and he paves his own path. Even minor characters like Shizuku have meaning behind their powers. She conjures up like a living vacuum cleaner, and because she's part of the Phantom Troop, which is basically like this band of thieves, she uses the vacuum cleaner to help clean up the mess they make so like they don't leave evidence behind. Now, if you don't know Hunter x Hunter, you might think that's just OP, like what you can come up with any power you want, you just become the most powerful person, just think of a really OP superpower. But creating powers always comes with limitations. The more specific and powerful you make it, the more negative setbacks there are correlated with it. A good example of this is Kurapika, who created chains specifically made to counter the Phantom Troop members. He wants revenge on them for killing his clan. The limitation set is that if he uses his chains on anyone other than a Phantom Troop member, he will die. And because death is the punishment of breaking this rule, it makes these chains even stronger against the Phantom Troop members because the limitations are set that way. The concept is used very sparingly throughout the show, but when it is used, it reveals a lot about the characters. The limitations give a way to reveal exactly what the character wants deep down in their heart, and for Kurapika, it's obvious. He just wants revenge on the Phantom Troop. I could go on and on about all the different intricacies of Nen. There's so much more than just this, but at a surface level, it's already good enough. Nen sets up a really powerful relationship between the characters and their powers. Stands from JoJo are a very creative take on the superpower lottery. Unlike Nen, you don't get to choose what power you get. It just gets awakened when you get stabbed by an arrow or you're born with it. But just like Nen, these powers aren't completely random. They are directly, because stands are basically physical manifestations of the user's spirit. As the series progressed, Araki really found his stride with connecting the stands and the users. Giorno's gold experience lets him imbue life into inanimate objects. And this represents his appreciation for life and ambition to stop the Italian mafia from distributing drugs that are ruining other people's lives. Abakio's moody blues lets him see into the past, and this personifies his past mistakes that he regrets and constantly looks back on, even in a practical sense. Kira's Killer Queen helps him kill people and explode them, basically removing the evidence, which really benefits him because he is a serial killer. The stands fit each user in a very creative way. And arguably the best thing about this whole stand system is the balancing. In other power systems like chakra, ki, spiritual pressure, the strong characters have like an overwhelming amount of this power, and that just straight up allows them to win for that reason. There's nothing really inherently wrong with using this power system, but as the story progresses, it usually just renders most of the cast useless because they don't have the power or the energy to match the new villain that gets introduced. By simply saying,
It's over 9,000!
we kind of get the point, like, okay, the main character is just gonna have to train harder and pull out an even bigger nuke attack to beat them. But with stands, there really are no numerical values. They're just simply the power themselves. And that makes it so that any stand can be useful if used right. By eliminating power levels, stand users are forced to get creative with the ways they use their stands. And that makes it so that no matter what kind of chump that they are fighting, it always feels threatening because there is some way that they could lose. Every par's final villain is hyped up to be extremely strong, not because they have like an insane amount of chakra reserve or anything like that, but because his ability is literally just so OP you can't even think of a way to beat it. How do you beat Diavolo, who has two stands? One that can see into the future and one that can literally skip 10 seconds into the future. It seems impossible to beat, but they use their own blood and let it drip down to see if time has skipped past. Any OP stand can be beaten if outsmarted and not just by throwing a bigger boom at them. And any supposedly weak or useless stand can be useful if used properly, like for example the fishing rod stand. It somehow went from a joke to genuinely a terrifying power. And yeah, that's right, this guy's stand is a fishing rod. Jotaro's stand is a big buff guy that punches the shit out of people, and his dad's stand is purple vines. So you can see stands come in all shapes and sizes. It makes it so that Araki just pretty much has creative freedom with anything he wants throughout the whole story. There are no power levels, so there is no power creep throughout the series. The true essence of JoJo has still remained no matter what happens or how crazy each part gets. And that makes it so that Araki is liberated with the power system, and that's what it should do. A good power system liberates the writer, not restricts them from doing what they want with the story. One Piece combines both the superpower lottery from JoJo and the self-trained powers from Hunter x Hunter. And that's because One Piece doesn't just have one power system, but it has two. And the first is Devil Fruits, which is my personal favorite of the two. These Devil Fruits are broken down into three categories: Zoans, Paramecias, and Logias. Zoans give the users the quality of an animal. Paramecias give the user a power based on an object or a concept, and Logias turn the user's body into a natural element. The power that comes with these Devil Fruits also comes with the weakness of being extremely weak to seawater. This power system worked in One Piece for a really long time, but there was always a slight hierarchy within the three. Logias were always pretty much the strongest because they could make their bodies intangible to any kind of attack. Paramecias were usually solid, and Zoans were usually the worst because it was just pretty much a buff to their stats. Oda came up with very creative ways to work around these powers, which made it fine for a while, but it really got perfected after the time skip. To balance these three more, he added more details to the fruits. There are a specific type of Zoan fruit called Mythical Zoan fruit, and these usually come with their own unique set of powers like Marco's healing. All Devil Fruits can awaken, but the one we've seen the most is Paramecia Awakenings. And this makes it so that the power is stronger because they can affect their environment, like how Doflamingo can turn things into string by touching them. And to balance Logias more, they introduced a second power system called Haki. Haki is the physical embodiment of a user's ambition. It also has three forms: Ornament, Observation, and Conquerors. Ornament Haki basically solidifies the user's ambition and allows it to coat their arms or their swords or whatever they use to attack, and makes it stronger. And this makes it so that they're able to hit Logias, and the Logias aren't able to just make their body intangible anymore. Observation Haki is basically just like a sixth sense that lets you predict things around you. And Conquerors can make people with a weaker will than you faint instantly. These forms of Haki made it so that people without Devil Fruit powers had a fair shot. In fact, most of the strongest characters in the show rely on just purely Haki, no Devil Fruits. Haki was used in a way that hyped up even bigger threats such as Kaido and Big Mom, who had so much Haki that it was almost impossible to even injure them. Haki can also negate certain powers like Law, who can't use his powers on people who have more Haki than him. One Piece created a very balanced world where not everyone has to play by the same rules. There are devil fruit users who heavily rely on their powers and not Haki, like Crocodile. There are those who don't even have a devil fruit like Zoro and use Haki a lot. And there are those who integrate their devil fruit powers and their Haki together like Luffy. One of One Piece's greatest strengths is its world building, and the power system allows it to be so versatile and different because there are so many different fighting styles. There are characters who don't even use Haki or a devil fruit like Frankie. If your story has a very vast world like One Piece, a power system that allows different types of powers makes it so that the world feels so much more diverse. There is no one-size-fits-all power system. Nen wouldn't work in JoJo, Stands wouldn't work in One Piece. It's not about whether or not the power system is a random superpower lottery or one where you can train for your powers. It's about how the power system connects with the characters and the world. Nen works in Hunter x Hunter because the whole story is about choosing your own adventure as a hunter, and that ties in with creating your own power, basically paving your own path. Stands work in JoJo because the whole running theme in the story is the importance of fate and how each Joestar has a destiny that they need to fulfill. So naturally, being born with your power fits in with that whole concept of fate. Devil fruits and Haki work in One Piece because it helps diversify the already huge, vast world of One Piece. If you want me to help you develop your story,